Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Mireia. You don't see my name here in the Zoom, but I work in INORP, the European Network on Religion and Belief, and I'm an intern focused on migration and religious diversity. And while we're very pleased to have you all here, I'm quickly admitting more people into the event. This is a coalition of different partners. We like to call it a solidarity partnership. And we're trying to break the narrative, the negative narrative around Albanians in the UK, especially seeing how the current UK government has been using Albanians as a scapegoat, has been otherizing them, and in general, they have been undermining their experiences and while using this racist narrative and generalizing. So we really want to tackle all of these, explore the roots of all of this narrative, including the country of origin, what's the situation right now in Albania, why do Albanians feel compelled to leave, and what hardships they encounter when they arrive in the UK. We also want to explore the UK immigration system and the asylum application system. So for this, we have partnered different associations, civil society organizations. We are INORP. We have partnered as well with civil society consulting, with Hibiscus initiatives, with Arise Foundation, with Espresso program, and Media Diversity Institute, among others. I encourage them to, when the time comes, introduce themselves. I think it's really valuable that they speak about their work that they have been doing for years. Okay. So I will briefly introduce the agenda. We will have first an intervention from the INORP director, Mark. He's joining us from Albania, in fact, from Skother in the north. You see him there. I will, yes, pin the speakers when the time comes. He will explain the harmful effect of anti-Albanian discrimination when they exercise their basic human rights of seeking asylum, claiming asylum in the UK. Then we will explore with Angela from Arise the current situation in Albania. We will explore inequalities. We will explore what the hardships are there right now and from in the last years. Then we also encourage you to, at any point, please throw the chat if you want to make any question, or after their interventions, if you want to pose questions to them directly, you can do that, and also during the interventions through the chat. If you also want to introduce yourselves briefly in the chat, that's very welcome. We will also explore with Angela from Arise why are Albanians leaving and why do Albanians feel compelled to leave. And after that, we will have some time for open discussion. So any thoughts, ideas. Our aim is as well to continue this collaboration. We want to prepare a second session, so we can discuss a little bit after this, what are the next steps we can take to break this narrative and fight and counteract this situation. So now I will give the floor to Mark, the INORP director.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Maria. I hope you can all hear me quite well, but I'm in the reception here of this lovely hotel in Skother, which I would highly recommend. It's a really lovely place near to the mosque and the church. You wake up early here. That's one of the things I've learned. First it's the mosque, and then it was the church bells. So you're up really quite early, which was quite nice. So I've spent a week here because we've been really, really concerned about the anti-Albanian racism that's really taken root, sadly, within the UK government over this recent period. And I wanted to come and see that for myself. I'm a part-time director here at the European Network on Religion and Belief. And I've spent time talking to Albanians, particularly young Albanians. And I've met lots of colleagues, Angela from Arise in Tirana, and Christina, who's an excellent journalist, and getting their perspectives, and obviously Ledi from Suppressor Foundation, who I met some time ago when we were looking at this emerging issue. And as Maria said, we really wanted to explore this. But I think it's really important in terms of getting narratives right to kind of be based in the reality of where we are. I think this is a truly beautiful, wonderful country. Sorry, I mean, I really do think it's a lovely country. It's very warm in terms of the welcome that you get from people. People are really pleased to see you and engage with you. English is very widely spoken. It's probably the second language, I would say, in Albania, which is part of maybe feeds into the discussion that we're going to have now. And I've been to Durrës, I've been to Berat, I'm going to Kruja tomorrow. So I haven't got right in the south. I'd like to have got a bit more into the north, but I've just run out of time. But I'd like to have got a bit more over towards Cooks and up towards Verona, but I haven't managed to do that. And as I say, it's important to get people's stories and perspectives here into the equation. These are real people, many of them experiencing real hardship and a sense of poverty. And I've got a real sense of that from talking to people, and also a great sense of frustration from a lot of young people, particularly, actually, I have to say, young men have really articulated that very strongly to me, as well as young women. A real frustration about the politics here in Albania. There's a real frustration there. We've got local elections, as Albanians in the room will know, on Sunday. I suspect there won't be high turnout. In fact, in the last general election, it was only a 46% turnout. But you can't really look in too many places without getting a photograph of Eddie Rama on a big poster screen. Oh. Is that okay?
Mark, you are on mute.
Hello there. Thank you for letting me know. As an organization, we're obviously focused on anti-discrimination, anti-racism. We're an interfaith organization. I went to a meeting yesterday called Suppressa. It was all about hope yesterday. People from the Catholic, the Orthodox and Muslim backgrounds discussing those issues. And again, giving me their views about the situation, particularly as it relates to the UK at the moment. It's on the television here, you know, and being discussed. And so it's so live in people's minds in that way. But it seems to me, as the director here, we have a very tolerant and very at home set of interfaith discussions. People will know that Hosha tried to create the first atheist state, actually, back in the day. So a lot of the new churches and new mosques are new because they were actually pushed down. We have, as an organization, registered our concern about the illegal migration bill, as it's been termed by the government. We've issued a statement of concern. I should add that ANORB is kind of governed by a board of directors, board members. And I think Enrique, one of our board members, is in the room, who runs an organization called Migrant Tales. He might say a few words about that later, and he is certainly working on this issue as well. As some of you will know, or the majority of you will know, our Prime Minister in the UK has 5 pledges. Yeah, he's got 5. And one of them is to stop the small boats. He's presented it as a priority for his government. And this has led to, we think, a really uncomfortable narrative, which his Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has leaped upon, and she's used very inflammatory language. She's used words, as you will know, such as invasion, and she's stirred the pot within the UK in a really, really ugly way. And we, as an organisation, do not think that is the way to proceed with any good policy making or any good politics or in any shape or form around interfaith or you know, in response to civil society working together. We do have a Daily Mail, I call it a Daily Mail narrative in the UK. It seems to lead the UK government by the nose, I'm afraid to say. and they have been campaigning against all sorts of refugees and all sorts of migrants. And the latest group that they've scapegoat or otherized, as Maria was saying, are the Albanians. And the government seem to have very much picked up on that. And a lot of people will see that as a really, in a sense, maybe a response by the UK government from the fallout from Brexit. The Brexit situation in the UK has not gone well. Economically, think we're below Russia in terms of economic development at the moment, and obviously Russia are in a war, a legal war, and we have a cost of living crisis. So a number of people are thinking maybe this is a diversion by the UK government, particularly in its 5 pledges, one of them being about small boats. We are talking about comparatively small numbers of people. So a diversion tactic by the government doesn't seem unlikely, really. And actually, in terms of politics, and this, again, this is the way that we see this, and we're interested in other people's view, it seems to be a kind of tactic for shoring up a kind of prejudiced vote in the UK, or perceived prejudiced vote in some of the areas that the government wants to continue getting votes. We call it political dog whistling, and we find that very offensive against all people, and obviously Albanians in this case. And you'll see the data about 27% of victims of modern slavery are identified as Albanian. So, you know, we've got people coming from very vulnerable backgrounds. So the kind of Daily Mail narrative is one that we really, really oppose. So I think part of today, as Maria said, it's about how we explore working together going forward between the UK and Albania, between the UK and a wider European civil society organizations, and that we really recommend or recognize that we listen to the voices of lived experience, we listen to the voices of real people here in Albania, and that we look to tackle the discrimination that we're seeing and the racial stereotyping that we're seeing in this debate. So it's about what do you want to see happen going forward, and that's on the agenda, and we want to see also, you know, how we work more effectively going forward to effectively influence a UK government, which does seem to be set on a trajectory that, as I've set out, we find actually offensive, and we feel that it's something that should be countered and opposed, but it's how you do that most effectively. So it's so nice to see. How many people have we got in the room? We've got 32 people. And I think that's a really, we've got somebody else just arrived. We've got 33 people in the room. So we're really, really excited over the next hour to hear what you have to say when we have that open discussion. Hopefully that's okay, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark, for your words. I will give the floor now to Lady.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Lidiana.
Hello. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's my turn, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm so pleased to see everyone here gathered for such a very important cause now for our community. But this is not only an Albanian community issue. We should all understand this, that now is our turn, but it will be someone else's turn next. Another community will be scapegoated after they finish what they started with the Albanian community. I would like to give first the word to my colleague Christina, because she prepared something, and after that I will speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady, for passing the floor. And first of all, thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in for this conversation. For us as Albanians, it's indeed very important to have such events in order to counteract on the narrative. I will quickly share the presentation with you. I prepared. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. So in order to analyze Albanian migration, to unpack the lived experiences of Albanian asylum seekers in the UK and understand why Albanians constitute one of the most at-risk nationalities for trafficking, as Mark also mentioned previously, we should definitely shed light on Albania's past and the political upheavals of the 1990s that have for sure left its legacy in today's development. And for this reason, a brief overview on the communist regime, I believe, is necessitated. So the communist regime in Albania was installed in 1944 and was overthrown in 1991, making Albania the last former socialist republic to leave communism. And under the rule of communist leader Enver Hoxha, the People's Socialist Republic of Albania actually constituted one of the most authoritarian regimes in the so-called Eastern Bloc. So basically, Hoxha sealed Albania off from the rest of Socialist Republic, and not only, also from the world. And this isolation basically lasted for almost half a century. And the political structure mirrored pretty much the contemporary North Korea political system that we see today. Maybe a brief overview to give you some statistics in order to understand the brutality of the state surveillance during that time. So according to the Albanian branch of the Helsinki Committee, approximately 35,000 people were imprisoned or exiled for political crimes, and 6,000 people are still missing. And these statistics, I guess, can help you get an overview of the state repression and also the collective paranoia that was somehow installed in Albanian society. Moving on. So based on this historical overview on the political regime of communism, I guess you can all get an understanding of how Albania's economy crumbled due to these extreme isolationist policies. And given the socioeconomic conditions of Albania, living communism as one of the poorest nations in Europe, also combined with the paranoia and isolation during its dreary communist times, of course, this motivated thousands to flee the country in search for a better life. And actually, many scholars, local and foreign scholars, have conceptualized Albanian immigration as an expression of political resistance towards this authoritarian cultural surveillance and also the control exercised by the totalitarian regime. All in all, Albania has experienced two mass exodus since the collapse of communism. First, after the fall of the communist regime in 1991, and the second one, which occurred in 1997, when much of the Albanian population went bankrupt. And then after 1997, we are witnessing this third silent wave of migration, as we also see from different statistics. So focusing on this side, which depicts some of the pictures from the first modern mass migration of Albanians, which took place between the years of 1990 till 1993. And this was an influx prompted by the violent exit of Albania from its past after 45 years of appalling poverty and also gross violation of human rights. Here in these pictures, we have depicted some of the mass influxes of around 20,000 Albanians, if I'm not mistaken, heading towards Italian shores in unauthorized ways. And this took place in March 1991. And of course, this period was characterized by a national chaos, given the long isolation that Albanians had been exposed to. Moving on to the next slide. So as I mentioned previously, the second exodus to Italy and other countries started in 1997. This is a very peculiar year for Albania because we see here a crisis of this and a collapse of several pyramid schemes in which Albanians lost over $1 billion. And actually this totaled to the savings of over 70% of the country. So just to give you a bit of a context, these schemes were quite common and rampant in post-communist countries, and citizens in general had little experience with investing. They were not very familiar with it. So given the political turmoil and this economic catastrophe following, ordinary Albanians seized army depots and distributed weapons among the population, as it is displayed in the picture on the left. And basically, Albanians saw this complete breakdown of the police and justice system that prompted a civil war where 1,500 people were killed. So basically, we have this emergence of the so-called rule of gun, with, of course, a lot of criminal gangs that erupted across the country. And they also set up checkpoints in cities to control the internal movement of citizens. And I guess you can also get an overview of how this situation paved the way for the proliferation of traffickers promising a way out of the country. Another interesting fact is that the fall of communism brought, of course, a lot of economic hardships, especially for women. It left many women vulnerable to trafficking and exploitation. As illustrated by Siddhartha Kara, sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Anyways, Kara is one of the most prominent writers on sex trafficking, and in his fieldwork that he conducted in Albania, where he gathered data about the sexual trafficking there, especially during those years after the 1990s. I have taken one quote from the book that I read recently. So, quote unquote, he's saying throughout the 1990s, Albania was the chief transit country for slave trading from Eastern Europe to Italy, and from Italy to the remainder of Western Europe. So basically, Kara in his fieldwork gathered insights on the use of Vlora harbor, and Vlora is a coastal city in Albania. So Vlora, and constituted this launch point for Western Europe, for these young women and children being trafficked. And according to the findings that he presented in the book, from the early 1990s until a police crackdown called Operation Puna that took place in 2002, this was basically the situation with the trafficking. And to interlink it with the contemporary times, despite the progress in the past decades to combat human trafficking, especially in the context of the Balkans, nonetheless, Albania continues to struggle with the problem, and it continues to be a source country for both international sex trafficking and for forced labor. And in addition, recent reports show an increase in domestic trafficking of women and children for sexual exploitation and for begging. Last slide, in order not to take much space from others. So here, according to Albanian scholar Juli Vullnetari, who is one of the most brilliant Albanian scholars that we have in terms of immigration, she has contributed indeed significantly in this research on the topic around Albanian migration. And she theorizes, so she basically explains that historical and contemporary Albanian immigration presents indeed a unique case, not only post-communist Europe, but also more widely because of its peculiar nature. And other scholars as well, like Van Heer, have named it a new Albanian migration order, referring to this condition under which Albanian migration took place during the first post-communist decade. So this Albanian model is characterized by, firstly, an intense migratory flows, like a high rate of immigration, quite high compared to other Eastern Bloc countries. Secondly, it displays a high degree of irregularity with many undocumented migrants. And thirdly, it is mostly, but this shouldn't be like the sole narrative in order to talk about these experiences of immigrants. It is indeed economically driven, and it stands as a survival migration strategy. So to conclude, this puts, of course, Albania in the top 10 of immigration countries worldwide in terms of immigration scale in relation to its resident population. And it's indeed a very unique position, considering that other countries above Albania in this rank constitute mostly small island states with histories of post-colonial immigration over several generations. So yeah, this is all in all. I will now pass the floor to other colleagues that can elaborate more on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, for preparing and for sharing this very insightful information. That this is why I wanted you to be first, because people need to understand a bit of background of the story, of the reasons why Albanians do migrate. I work for Shpresa program. Shpresa is an organization that delivers services for the Albanian community in UK. We are based in East London, and we work for more than 20 years now only with the Albanian community. Of course, this period has been very difficult for our community in UK, and it still is. We work with different age groups, children, young people, women, men, and we can say that we experienced a lot of trauma at this moment from our young people that we are working with. They have issues with their identity, recognizing their identity, accepting their identity. They were really unprepared for this situation and this hate that they are experiencing in school and everywhere now. So that's why we are trying somehow to raise awareness about this and to show others what is really happening with the real people who are struggling with this hate and scapegoating. I'm particularly grateful for this amazing gathering today to speak with you in light of the illegal immigration bill and the designation of Albania as a safe country. In the power vacuum after 1994, particularly in the north of the country, there was a resurgence of the pre-communist phenomenon of blood feuds and growth of criminal gangs who have developed extensive network of trafficking in people and drugs across Europe. There is no doubt that the Albanian state has sought to take measures to address these issues, but the Home Office's own very helpful fact-finding mission reports on blood feuds and on trafficking published in the last year testify to the ongoing struggle to implement reforms and the lack of safety afforded to Albanian citizens. The stats that I shared with my colleagues via email, and I can share with others if you want, show the huge disparity in the grant rate for Albanian asylum seekers compared to those from other countries designated safe. During 2021 and 2022, the Home Office grant rate for Albanian asylum seekers was 58%. Of those who then appealed to an independent judge in the Immigration and Asylum Chamber, more than half are successful in their appeals. One of the largest groups of victims of trafficking in the UK are Albanian citizens, and there is parity in terms of recognition of Albanian nationals as victims of modern slavery as compared with other nationalities. Over the last 5 years, 82% of Albanian adults received positive conclusive grounds decision versus 83% of all nationalities, and 89% Albanian children received positive conclusive grounds decisions compared to 92% of all children. Yet, there is a strong and growing perception that somehow large numbers of Albanians are scamming the asylum and modern slavery system. No one can apply to the national referral mechanism to be accepted as a victim of trafficking, nor can their lawyers refer them. Potential victim has to be referred by a first responder, someone from the Home Office, a police officer, a social worker, or a specialist NGO such as the Salvation Army. Breaking the Chains is a project that was created in 2018 in response to consultation with Albanian children and young people, and the grassroots agencies supporting them. Expressa program have formally partnered with MyClue to work with Albanian asylum seeking children. We at Expressa submit that the scapegoating of Albanian boys and young men in particular creates new vulnerabilities to trafficking rather than preventing it, leaving young people to conclude that there is no protection for them through the asylum system and that their only option is to accept exploitation at the hand of those same criminal gangs that they have previously fled. I would like to invite one of our amazing and brave young unaccompanied person to share his lived experience and to give more insights on what is really happening.
Hi everyone. Yeah, thank you, Liddy, for all of that. That was actually quite informative, so everyone can understand what actually goes on. I would just want to share my story a little bit, so everyone here can get a bit better understanding. A bit as an example, more as general thing, just saying this is bad and this is bad. I was born from two people that have finished degrees in Albania, two people that had very quite decent jobs in Albania, and until I was 11, 12, I've lived a pretty normal life.
Ray, from your side.
Thank you very much. Yes, we really appreciate your contribution. And I think some remarks that have been said are really key in this discussion, to take into account the historical context and not just essentialize the story and really like visualize all the different realities. And also what you were saying, Lady, about the facts versus this narrative of Albanians just scam the immigration system, and comparing these narratives with the real facts. And again, thank you very much. I didn't quite get your name, but thank you very much for your testimony. And if anyone wants to pose any questions to the speakers so far, any comment is really welcome.
I think one of them has raised their hand. Claudia, I think.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you see me well? My name is Claudio. I'm an Orbs Policy and Advocacy Assistant, where I coordinate Get the Trolls Out project, which aims to fight religious discrimination and intolerance in Europe. So my question is to you, as an Albanian myself, do you think that our government has done enough to prevent this immigration, this big immigration wave? And do you, as a civil society representative, do you have like any contact with Albanian representatives? Have you tried reaching out to them in order to create a policy so that people can actually immigrate in a legal way, and also to create like more context with the UK, and to have like a real policy to make it possible for people to immigrate in a normal way without having, to go through different unsafe ways? And do you think that perhaps maybe our government should probably do more things about this issue, other than just simply talking and saying how bad things are? Because I understand what the Home Office Secretary Silja Braverman said. Is not something normal, especially for a politician. But on the other hand, the fact is that within Albania, we do have failed policies too, and that is also something that needs to be tackled. And do you think that perhaps even not just civil society organizations, but even people themselves, you think that they should probably try to be more active on that? And in your opinion, how can that be realized? Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Arbery, before you answer. Claudio, was that a question for Arbery? Because it looked a very big and deep question for me.
It's a general question, actually, for all of the speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can answer you that to the best of my knowledge. First of all, 100%, I don't agree. Like, I don't think that our government, Albanian government, has done anything to help us Albanians. If they had done that, they wouldn't start by saying that Albania is as safe as Switzerland, and they wouldn't start by denying that the blood feuds exist. Because if you go into more detail, like I said, into the northern part or into villages and everything, you'll see the blood feuds exist. Like you said, you're an Albanian as well, you will know that, for example, the whole taboos and everything about the women and about the trafficking and everything that happened in Albania itself. And you know what happens when the wife says no to the husband, and you know what happens when the daughter says no, I don't want to marry that guy. It still happens to this day. And therefore, those problems are still there. So those problems, those asylum seekers that come here to ask for safety in this country have got a legal right to do that, because that's how it's been for now 100 to 100 years. So, and because of that, I think that the Albanian government should do more to say that, listen, we've got these issues and we're trying to solve them, and not say that, oh, we got one or two, but that's fine. That's in every country, and Albania will guarantee safety to everyone. A lot of people have been sent back. There's a person who's been sent back from, I don't think it was from England, it was from another country, because Albania, the Albanian government came out and said, we will guarantee him safety. And he was killed within 3 days in Albania near his home. So that means that there is no right protection, or there's no efficient protection from the Albanian authorities. And what we're trying to also say is that we don't want people, even because this is not properly done, because some people also will go and say, oh yeah, those people who kill obviously the other people will go in prison or will get their sentence. We're not trying to give them the sentence, but oh, you've done the crime now and that's it. We're trying to prevent that from happening. What have they changed, or what have they done if they let the other person get killed? You know that I'm trying to kill you, for example, then should prevent me from killing you, not for me to go to prison after I do the thing with you. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And you got like the Albanian Prime Minister, he came here and said, because it was like a massive achievement for him, because he was the first Prime Minister to come in England, and it was a massive achievement for him to come to England and meet the Prime Minister and everything, and say all those good things and say how good Albania is and everything. But no, I think it should start from Albania, and also the England authorities and the England UK government, that have to stabilize something within this, yes, but without putting prejudice, without saying that everything is fine, without saying that this is all sorted, without saying that Albanians are not doing anything, without saying that, because obviously you can create legal routes, but create them in the first place. Why do I have to go and ask for a legal route to be created for me to come here, for example, for my safety? You hear the UK government say all the time that, yes, everyone who comes here illegally will be sent back. It's not as simple. Give me those legal routes then. Show to the people, what can you do? I don't know any legal route that you can come to the UK. I don't know any. Those people, I know a few people that have come here, not because they fear safety in Albania, but because they want to come on holidays, and they've come on a visa. They've told me you need a lot of stuff to get that visa. Then you need money in your bank account. You need your insurance, life insurance, and everything. You need to have a decent job. You have to earn a certain amount of money. You have to have all your reservations here. You have to have a lot of stuff. And someone who doesn't have that luxury because they're fleeing the country, they're poor, they're not safe, wouldn't have a luxury of deciding and wanting when to go to Albania so they can find a cheap ticket, or deciding how much money they want to put in the bank account, or deciding what job they want to do. They're from a poor village. They're from a village who doesn't know anyone. They're from a village where they're staying in a house because they know if they get outside, they will be killed. So tell me how that person can apply and come to the UK for a legal route. It's not possible because it doesn't exist. And it's not up to me, and it's not up to normal people like us, civil servants, to go and ask for that route. If they're saying that, yes, you can come here through legal routes, show to the people. I haven't seen one person from the UK government or even Albanian government that say the way to apply is this, and you can do this, and you can present this, and then if you do all this, you'll be coming to the UK legally. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Sorry, I just have to call in Mark really briefly, and thank you very much, Arvi, for your thoughts. I completely agree. I think this narrative sadly always focuses on the illegal, and it's criminalizing migration, when the reality is that there are no alternatives, there are no legal or safe ways to migrate. So I do agree that it's really important to put the spotlight and focus on that. We will have the contribution of Mark really briefly, and then Angela from Arise.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you, Abri. I mean, really, really powerful stuff. And we really endorse everything you've just been saying. Just for you to be aware, and Claudio earlier in this conversation, and this may emerge from today, is that we need to meet with both Albanian and UK either officials or ministers. And that's one of the things that we're quite keen on doing. For today, I did try 3 or 4 times to try and get Eddie Rama to come along, because I'm obviously in his country. He's the Prime Minister here, and we were very keen to hear what he might have to say. But I think we can really build on that, because that's something that we can do in a positive and effective way. So we really hear you on that. So we'll try and do that moving forward, if that's what people agree at the meeting today. Okay, Maria?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, then Angela, I will give the floor to you.
Thank you. Well, given what our colleagues share, I wouldn't want to take much time. And today I also have a colleague from our network in Albania, Brikena Puka, who leads an anti-trafficking shelter in the south of Albania, who I would like to also give more time to her, because she's involved directly in the anti-trafficking fight. Where I'm Angela, I coordinate the anti-trafficking response for Arise Foundation, which is based in London. Today we also have Martin Foley, our executive director of the organization, who can also share something later on about Arise. I just wanted very briefly, because we touched on all the push factors why Albanians are leaving, but I just wanted to bring some statistics. For example, a family living in poverty in Albania receives an estimated of 9,000 lek, which is 60 pounds per month, when the cost of surviving in Albania is 7 times higher at the moment. Here in Albania, almost 40 to 45% of our salaries goes only for food, which makes surviving very expensive, and immigrating or following unsafe migration routes as the only option sometimes when you don't have access to employment. As an overview, we currently have approximately 80 to 90,000 families who count on state social benefits at the end of each month. And according to UNICEF Albania statistics, around 35,500 citizens of Albania are expected to be added to the number of persons in need of financial support from the government as a result of the impact, firstly, of a deadly earthquake we had in 2019, the pandemic, and then the war in Ukraine. I also wanted to touch upon corruption and justice, because I think that after poverty, these are the main push factors why Albanians want to leave Albania. Albania appears to be the country most affected by the highest administrative corruption in the region, in the Balkans region, where 57% of citizens have been asked for bribes, and 47% of citizens, they have paid a bribe in order to receive public services that they are entitled to receive by law and by human rights. I would also like to touch upon Albania's justice system. Albania's justice system is currently undergoing a comprehensive overhaul after the adoption by the parliament in 2016 of a new justice reform package. Until now, 40 new laws or legal amendments have been drafted and approved within the framework of this justice reform. What does this justice reform mean? Is that it will firstly go through the process of assessing existing judges and prosecutors across all Albania, known as otherwise the vetting process, which means that it will seek to remove corrupt or incompetent prosecutors and judges from the justice system. It's been now 7 years since this process has started, and the results are showing very weak responses. And currently the caseload is increasing, and Albanians cannot access justice if something happens to them. Additionally, this justice reform is also bringing the establishment of new existing justice institutions. For example, the Special Prosecution Office and the Special Court Against Corruption and Organized Crime that are competent to treat cases of politicians, MPs, ministers involved in organized crime groups. And we also currently have in prison previous ministers and MPs who have been involved either in corruption or forms of organized crime, who have been sentenced for less than 2 years overall, which shows a lot about the justice in Albania and how that can affect the most vulnerable ones. I would like to finally close with femicide and youth unemployment in Albania. Currently, Albanians are struggling a lot with femicide, which is the killing of a woman because she's a woman. And only 2019, we had every 8 days a woman being killed in Albania, which are threatening results that show that the police and prosecution are not doing the job that they are requested to do. Finally, about youth unemployment, since what we're seeing also in the UK is massive youth leaving the Albania to the UK, mainly Albanian boys aged to 16, from 16 to 28 years old. We do see in Albania that at the moment we see youth unemployment at 21.5%. And what's more dangerous is that within the youth unemployed in Albania, 24% of those youth who are unemployed, they're not in education nor into vocational training, which means they are so vulnerable to follow other irregular paths in order to make a living and make plans for their futures. Now I would like to give the floor to Brikena, our colleague who leads an anti-trafficking shelter, to bring more the situation of what happens when a victim is returned back to Albania after the trafficking experience.
Thank you, Angela. So I am Brikena Puka. I'm Executive Director of Vatra Psychosocial Center, which is the first organization in Albania, a pioneer organization in Albania, which has started since 1997 to work on anti-trafficking issues. Vatra also is member of coalition of shelters for victims of human trafficking in Albania and member of United Response Against Human Trafficking Network. So here I will share with you information regarding the services that we provide for victims of trafficking when they return back from European countries, including here also Great Britain, and also for those victims that are identified within Albania and have been exploited in Albania through internal trafficking. So our shelters provide 24 hours security and accommodation, support for basic needs, clothes, food, medical assistance, psychological assistance, legal assistance, support for mediation with the family members when the family is not included in the process of recruitment or process of exploitation. We make the mediation, especially for those cases that are minor, in order to create a good environment for the victims when they turn back to the family, to have the familiar, supportive, and not accompanied by prejudices. We work also on raising the life skills of the victims that we accommodate in our shelter. And we also make the mediation to take professional vocational training, and also we support them with training on the job, with mediation for employment and employment in different businesses in different cities where they are, or if they are in shelter, we provide for them this mediation to the cities where the shelters are, in Vlora, Elbasan, and Tirana. And also we have supported them during this year also to establish the micro businesses and to manage by themselves. We provide for them trainings how to manage the business, and we make together the business plan, and after that we support them on managing the business and give our counseling to them. Of course, there are many challenges during our work with victims. As Angela mentioned, that the first challenges is that it is difficult, in fact, the reintegration in the community, because not always the employment is easy or is in a sustainable way. And in the case when they do not have a job, they have to take some money as economic aid. As Angela mentioned, it is 9,000 lek. But with 9,000 lek, you cannot cover anything, and not the basic needs. And sometimes the victims are accompanied with their children. And in this case, they are accompanied with their children, and reintegration is a long process and a difficult process, because they need support not only for themselves, but also for the children. And another challenge is the sustainability of the financial support for services, long-term reintegration services. Around 25% is supported by the government, by Ministry of Health and Social Protection, and we have to find every year 75% of the funding by international donors. So we are not in condition that we can maintain these services in a sustainable way. And another challenge is the identification of victims of human trafficking within Albania, but I think even outside Albania is difficult process of identification of victims of human trafficking. In Albania, we have established in 9 cities mobile units which do outreach work to identify victims of human trafficking. But the social worker of mobile units are supporting financially by our projects, by projects of NGOs and not by the state. So their work is not sustainable. It depends by the funding. And I can give you an example. If in 2021, it has been identified 159 cases of victims of human trafficking, and around 70% of them are identified by mobile units. In 2022, there are identified 112 cases of victims of human trafficking or potential victims of trafficking. So we have a reducing number of victims of human trafficking because all our organization, Vatra, Different and Equal, and Other Vision, we do not have had enough money to pay the social worker of mobile units. So the number of cases is reduced compared with year ago, 2021. So in TIP report and in other reports, it is mentioned as a recommendation for Albanian government, the necessity of funding of mobile units, which are the main source of referral for victims of human trafficking to services. So we have raised this concern also in national referral mechanism, which is near to the Ministry of Interior National Anti-Trafficking Coordinator Office. Let's say that other challenges is also the treatment of cases of victims of human trafficking with mental health problems, hard mental health problems, because in our shelters we do not have enough capacities or human resources to provide services for these specific target groups. And however, in Albania, the services for people in general with mental health problems are missing, and the Ministry of Health do not provide hospitalizing of victims of human trafficking and other people with mental health problems. And at the end of the day, we provide services for this category. But I would like to trust me, it is a big challenge for our staff that works every day in shelter with victims of human trafficking in general, but also with victims of human trafficking with mental health problems. So these are more or less our work and our challenges. During this year, Vatra has provided services for more than 2,600 victims of human trafficking, potential victims of human trafficking, and around 65% of them have been minors. Of course, that we are ready to provide services for all the victims that are returned by different countries, including England. So we have also had cases that have been referred by different organizations in UK that have provided legal assistance for victims of human trafficking to provide them with the permission to stay in England. And they have requested by our part information regarding situation of victims of human trafficking in Albania, and also the challenges that they face every day in the rehabilitation and reintegration process. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm here for any question that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angela and Vlikena. It was really interesting to hear about these facts. We would like now to open for some questions. We would take 15 minutes of your time. If anyone has to leave, as some have already done, go for it. It's okay. I wanted to just also mention that Enrique, he wrote a question a few minutes ago. If you would like to introduce Enrique yourself and your project, Migrant Tales, is a really beautiful project. He's asking where do Albanians mostly migrate to? I don't know if Enrique, there's something else you would like to share or.
Thank you, Maria. And really, it's really great to be informed here about the Albanian cases in Europe. In Finland, I live in Finland, and we do have some Albanians who have applied for asylum, but I think the government has been pretty giving them the cold shoulder by saying that, well, there's no problems in Albania because it's in Europe and so forth. But the question I have is, okay, we know about England, but what about other countries? Which countries are really hostile to Albanians? And the question I like to ask Mark, and thank you, Mark, for being involved in this matter. Why is it that the Albanians are now sort of like the black sheep in England? Why are they being picked on by the government?
So this is the question for me.
It could be for you, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation also.
Okay. I mentioned during my presentation that the identification of victims of human trafficking in Albania is a challenge, but I think that the identification of victims of human trafficking, even in European countries, is it is a challenge. We see that even the governments in European countries do not have prioritized the identification of victims of human trafficking. Why I'm saying this? Because we do not have access on information about the number of Albanian victims of human trafficking are exploiting in European countries. But based on those cases that have entered to our program, they testify that many other, especially girls and women, are exploiting in European countries together with these cases. So we do not in general as information, but not exactly the number of cases that are exploiting outside Albania, and especially for sexual exploitation. So this is the reason that the number of cases that are identified until now is the top of iceberg. There are many other cases within Albania and outside Albania that are exploiting, especially in Italy, in Belgium, in France, in Norway, in Netherlands, in Greece, in Kosovo, in Macedonia, in Serbia. So there are other countries where the victims are exploiting in different kinds of exploitation. So, but very few of cases returning back by these countries are entering to the program. And I think that there are few cases that are identified in these countries. And regarding the question why Albania people are as a black sheep in England, based on the information that we have, that some youth from Albania are recruiting by traffickers. They promise to these guys, to this youth, free of charge transportation until UK, and after that they are exposed to exploiting in cultivation of the cannabis. And there are these cases that are exposed to this kind of exploitation, and they have to work for the traffickers in order to reimburse the cost of transportation. This is based on information that we have from different youth in high schools where we organize different activities, and they have these this information they have taken by the other youths that are recruited through these ways, through promising free of charge transportation, a better life in UK, and I think they are entered to the network, organizing network of cultivation and distribution of drugs. But I think that for those cases that are identified in UK as the potential victims of human trafficking, as organizations that we are providing for many years services for victims of human trafficking, even those cases that has no any indicators as victims of human trafficking, they need support because they have left the country. They have been in a very vulnerable situation to come to UK, to leave everything here without any job placement, without economic situation sustainable. So I think that UK government should provide support even these cases that are not necessary victims of human trafficking.
Thank you very much, Brikena. Martin, yeah.
Just before we have Martin coming, just answering Enrique's kind of quite pointed question about what's going on in the UK. I mean, I think it's just the latest scapegoat, and I think there is an issue here that we need to explore as well around how that's kind of focused around Albanian masculinity. I think there's some issues there that need to be explored, and how that kind of comes into a narrative. And obviously, you know, we've now got people of color in the three major positions of state: the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, the Foreign Secretary, and there does seem to be a kind of a sense that they feel that Albanians as being essentially white are something that they can turn their guns at, with the support of key elements of quite a racialist media. You know, they're supported by that, and we've seen those things happen quite often through Brexit narratives and what have you. I think the thing I would say, having spoken to lots of young Albanians here in the last week or so, is they just because English is their second language, they don't speak Finnish, or very few of them, I don't think, or French or German or Italian or whatever. They just see that kind of natural affinity there, so that, you know, because they can speak the language, and they think, well, you know, once we get to England, we can immediately work and earn some money, and things like that. So I think there's something there that's quite entrenched in the minds of many Albanians. Just on the European side, and we work closely with the European Commission, the Anti-Racism Civil Society Forum, we're members, and I know, working with the anti-racism coordinator, Michelle and Mua, you know, they would be keen to be working with us on this, but they will say, Enrique, they will say, well, where's the data? What else is going on in Europe? Because obviously the Commission is no longer very interested in what's going on in the UK for obvious reasons. But I think there's a role that UNORB could certainly play in that, working with partners to see what the reception is of Albanians in other parts of the European Union. So yeah, we could really do that. Thank you. Martin, sorry.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Foley, and I've recently joined Arise as its CEO. I'd like to commend the work of my colleague, Angela, our country coordinator in Albania, and our partners in Albania. As a charity committed, devoted to ending slavery, I just want to focus on the issue of slavery, and in a UK context, because I know, Mark, when you began the meeting, you talked about having a follow-up meeting. And I think that's timely because of this legislation that's going through the UK Parliament, the Illegal Migration Bill. The protection and support of victims of trafficking should not be contingent on whether they're legal or illegal. But the government has conflated so many issues in this legislation. And I think that those of us committed to ending slavery, I think need to try and work with politicians in the UK and equip them with case studies and data to try to ameliorate some of the adverse consequences of this legislation, which, let's be honest, is going to become law in the UK, barring something unforeseen. So I think we need to focus on trying to ameliorate the impact of this legislation as best we possibly can. And the more data that we can put into the hands of our allies in Parliament, the better. Data and case studies. The piece of data that was shared earlier, 82% received positive conclusive grounds decision. And I just contrast that with an article while someone was speaking. I Googled Daily Mail, and there was a piece on Albania, and the article stated that I think it was 84% of, so there were 4,613 modern slavery claims lodged by Albanians in 2022, up by 84% year on year. But then the article did not go on to say that 82% of those individuals receive positive conclusive grounds to remain. It's a critical bit of information that is missing from that article. So I'm relatively new to this particular sector, so I'm learning, absorbing lots of information, but very keen for a follow-up meeting with Mark and others. Thank you. Thank you for the presenters as well. It was really helpful.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin. I think if the presenters can share with everyone, if they would like, the information that they have given, this, I think it would be really useful to have all these facts. And I know I had the document from Lady, but if you could share with everyone, it would be great. Also the presentation, maybe Christina, if you would like to. And I think we could set now another date maybe to follow up on all of this. And we were discussing a potential second session on the media and the narratives in the media.
Yeah, and it's fair to say, Mireia, that was from our colleagues at Media Diversity Institute that we've worked very closely with. And I think that's a great idea. I think Christina's put her article, she's done some really good analysis of some of this. I think in the chat, I'd recommend reading Christina's work on this. And I think Christina's going to play quite a big role in that further discussion going forward. I think just, and we will do some bullet points. Lorenzo, one of our fantastic interns, is going to write up some key notes, and we've got the information in the chat, and we'll pull together some of the recording as well, so that everybody's got that. But I mean, I think the key question we wanted to know, having linked up, and this was kind of in a sense a spontaneous meeting, and thanks for your comments, Martin, on that, but it was a spontaneous meeting with our colleagues, Shapressa Foundation, Hibiscus, and obviously with Arise Foundation. Do we want to be taking this forward? I know a couple of colleagues have said the importance of working both UK and at the moment, sort of answering Enrique's point a bit as well, but in the main, the focus around the UK and the Albanian governments, and maybe how we coordinate meetings with officials or with ministers on either side of that, and represent sorry, I've got the cleaner coming now. I'm in the reception here. I promise it's quite genuine. But we can do lots of different things, I think, collaboratively together, if people feel that that's something that they would wish us to do, because I think it is only by being collaborative and together with a voice that pulls together a lot of different civil society organizations that we can make a little bit of headway. And I'm certainly brave enough to call for meetings with, Robert Kenrick or Suella Braverman. I think we should try and do that, even if we're refused. But I'd welcome the views of other people, whether they're up for that kind of work going forward.
Yes, I completely agree, Mark. It would be great to continue this thing that we started. And the more we speak about that, and the more the voice of young people like Arbery or other people who can share the stories can be heard, because what have been missed during this time is the voice of the people with lived experience, how this is affecting real people. There are real people out there who are struggling now. So let's do this, let's continue this, and let's start from here to plan what are we going to say next time and who is going to hear our voices. Because it's very important to have people who are interested directly into this to listen to us. But thank you very much for today. It was very important for us to meet.
Thank you. And there's something I wanted to add regarding to what Martin said. I think it's really key to collect this data and, as you mentioned, push it to the institutions. So the more we can do in that direction of gathering all this information, including the lived experiences and including the data and the facts that are completely opposed to the false narratives, it could be really, really useful. And hopefully we can get things.
And one very important thing that we should always keep in our mind is that we are not doing this only for the Albanian community. We are trying to save other communities from having the same fate as the Albanians and other communities before us, because these have been ongoing all the time and is political.
Thank you, Lydia. I think that if people are kind of generally in support of this, I think we will try and draft a statement of concern that we could all agree and sign, and pull that all together in a way that makes real sense to an external world and to ministers and policymakers, if people are minded to do that, and obviously have that in both languages so that we can push it to our Albanian colleagues at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, just a real fast thing, and what Mark said also, I think it's a great idea. And I think the issue here is, okay, you talk about Albanians, but we're talking about a human right, right? The right to asylum, to go to a country and seek shelter there. And as you know, I mean, you know, Martin Niemöller said that, well, they came for the socialists, and then I wasn't a socialist, right? So what I think it's really very important to point, and Mark, if we do an editorial, it could be something, or, you know, about the importance of defending human rights, that if we lose this, then we'll lose more. I mean, you're now the Albanians, but who are the next ones, the next group that they'll attack and so forth. So, yeah.
Well, that is one action that we're very happy to coordinate with colleagues in the room today and draft something for everybody to agree. Yeah.
And Lady, what you were mentioning about other communities, I completely agree. And in fact, we've seen recently how the UK embassy in Khartoum in Sudan has closed, and it's been impossible for Sudanese to try to issue or claim any type of humanitarian visa. So indeed, it is like a collective, situation and really dangerous.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you for that. And but only coming together and speaking about that and sharing information, we can bring more people into this, and we can make a change.
Can I just ask? We've got Kate and various other colleagues from Hibiscus Initiative here. I don't know whether you, Hibiscus, wanted to say anything in particular, Kate and other colleagues, just while we've got you here.
Yeah, no, so we're from Hibiscus. We work primarily with Black, minoritized and migrant women within the immigration and criminal justice system. And I think our concern around the illegal migration bill is it basically criminalizes migration almost of any sort. There's very little leeway in that. So we're anticipating more women, primarily who we work with, being criminalized through this, and obviously, like you say, all the different risks that you can see, and you've explained here as well for the people who may be returned. We're seeing my colleague. I can see you're here, but I don't know if you. Yeah, there he is. Because Wasim actually works in detention centres, so I don't know if there's anything in terms of your own experience working with Albanians specifically that you want to share.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. I'll be very quick, so I'm conscious of the time for everybody. Yeah, I think as Kate said, kind of my expertise kind of lies more within the kind of detention estate. So we currently kind of support women and men and families across 4 different settings across the UK. Historically, I've kind of been involved in a lot of immigration work for the last 18, 19 years. I've kind of seen it all in terms of, you know, the types of cases that we're getting and the trauma kind of aspect of the work that we kind of provide support for. And in particular, obviously, historically, again, Albanians have been, you know, constantly being put through the immigration system. I think I've got a direct message to Mark just about the fact that, you know, a lot of work does need to be kind of done in terms of both on the UK side and the Albanian side to kind of challenge these kind of prejudices and discrimination, because historically, again, that's always been the way. And obviously with the new illegal immigration bill, it's not helping the situation. But where we're kind of like focusing on, you know, supporting the Albanian group in particular, we are trying to challenge those kind of decision makers and policy makers through that kind of lived experience and kind of sharing the kind of statistics and the data. Very quickly, I mentioned that we did actually go to Albania back in 2021. We did meet Brikena, I think it was, from Vatra, and obviously just to see the kind of on the ground organizations providing the support out there. And then obviously taking that information, that kind of useful knowledge back to the UK and to kind of share that experience with obviously our clients who are kind of in detention, perhaps looking to kind of go back to their country. But more importantly was to kind of, you know, present that back to the Home Office to kind of share experiences of the kind of long-term effects of people who may have been kind of like trafficked into the UK, having, you know, been sent back to Albania law, you know, kind of voluntary or otherwise or enforced, but the kind of long-term effects that it's causing on them, you know, as a whole. So yeah, I think it'd be very useful to kind of continue these discussions and, you know, how we can kind of all work together to challenge those kind of policy and decision makers.
Thank you very much, Wasim. You know, I've got Lorenzo in the room who's been doing some work with us around with our sort of anti-racist initiative called Steps to Togetherness. And we're actually just doing that this afternoon around a UN application. It's a youth solidarity, so it's around young people, youth solidarity fund, and the younger intern team are working on that right now with colleagues at Civil Society Consulting, and we're looking at 3 countries: the UK. You have to choose 3 countries: the UK, Albania, and Spain, to do some work about solidarity, you know, building, if you like, between young people. So we're just doing some other work there. And I think perhaps in the notes, if we could just share the Steps to Togetherness link, Lorenzo, and share that with others, because I think that could be quite a major initiative across Europe and obviously across the UK, which brings together younger Europeans and in a positive agenda in the way that we've been discussing today. I'm just conscious of time. Maria, we had 2 suggested dates, didn't we, for coming back together, and we've still got some people in the room. It might be worth asking them.
Exactly. We were thinking about June 8th, so it's in 3 weeks. Yeah, June 8th, maybe in the afternoon, so we can potentially reach an audience that could be interested in joining us after their work. So we thought we were discussing June 8th at 3 p.m. Central European time, or Friday, June 9th, but any suggestions are welcome. We can also discuss the final details over email, but
yeah, over email, but the 8th of June for me works better.
Is it so? The 8th of June at 1500 set works for you, Leda?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a starting point because it's so difficult to get diaries. The 8th of June at 1500 set, which is 1400 EST. I don't know what it is in Finland. It's probably 1600. So does anybody, if they just do that?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's working.
Otherwise, you can write in the chat as well some other option.
Well, it's just a good start. I mean, obviously people have come who have not been able to stay, and it would be good to involve them. But if you could just pencil that in, the 8th of June at 1500 set, we can go from there and we can start drafting statements, and we can look at the media narrative at that next meeting. And we'll share all these notes, etc. And let it, I think, you know, in terms of Suppressor Foundation, you know, if you could give us a steer on the actions that you're taking, I know, over the next few days and weeks, and how we can support you in that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, I will.
And I don't know, you know, how useful it is often, but we can obviously have quite a good big email group here. And some people like that way of working, other people fills them with horror. But it is an option to try and create a sense of forward momentum if we do really link up, and people are then, you know, in an inclusive way able to share their thoughts and observations. It's quite
every single bit helps, and it's true. Yeah, I will share that with you via email.
Okay, and we'll collate that all together for everybody. Maria, do you want to just close, see if there's anything else people want to say?
Yes, so being aware of time, we will end soon if there's anything else you want to add. But otherwise, it was really a pleasure to see everyone here. We will remain in touch through email. Also, I left my email in the chat, mireia@inorp.eu. So if there's anything that you haven't had the chance to say or ask, you can also reach me. And yes, it's been really a pleasure. I hope to see you again soon, and that we can even create this partnership and this solidarity partnership and bring it forward and stronger.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
It means a lot
Thank you for
the
joining.
Albanian community.
Thank you very much.